So you can see here we have our rollover applied to each button, and this is from our PSD. We just want to change the size of this so we can see the responsive content. So if we click it, you'll see that now the menu is visible with the styles that we applied on rollover and the actual link that we have to Google. Hi, my name is Richard Pennycook and welcome to Export Kit. In this example, we'll be discussing responsive menus and how to take basic control using external CSS and JavaScript to add additional functionality. So let's just go ahead and take a look at the PSD. Now, we have a few different things that we're encompassing in this design. One be it that we're using code tag, we're also using a few CSS styles to cover hover effect, and we're also setting some screens. So I'm going to talk about each in detail. So let's start with the actual screens that we're using. So you can see here that what we have is our default design, which is using the size of our PSD. So that's about 950. And we also have a target screen for 380. Now, I'm just going to hide the 380 simply because they have the same elements. So we only need to take a look at the individual elements. So if we look at our home, what we have here is we have a CSS style for link. This will basically just add a CSS class in our output. And we also have a basic link tag here, and this is just linking to Google. Now, we didn't add link tags with the others. This will only create a link for the home button, but we could in the design, and this will simply output in the export as well. But this is just an example, so we're just taking a look at a few styles. So what we've done is we've also added the link style to both additional buttons on the actual page. So what this will do is create this class with each of the individual buttons. We've also added a style for nav. We're not using it completely, but we can when we need to. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at the actual CSS styles that we've included in the PSD also. Now, if we look at the style directly, what we have here is we have two, one for our default state, so this is our link style, and one for our hover state. And what it will do is basically change the color of the font to red. Now, going and we take a look at the two code tags that we've included. What we've done here is we've included external CSS styles and JavaScript inside our actual design. This will make it simple to just basically output the required code with the actual export rather than linking to an external file. But there are many ways that you can actually include this. You could have added this within your actual export kit head, or again, you could just simply link externally. But what we've done is we've added the actual internal code here, and we're going to take a look at each of the code scripts. So what we can do, and I'm just going to actually copy this and bring it into a better text editor. So we can see here that the script that we have, what it's basically doing is it's just looking for an element called menu, and this is reflective in our actual PSD. It's adding a click function, and what it's doing is it's basically toggling the nav state to display it or not display it. Now, the nav and the menu are both within the PSD design. So if we take a look here at our screen, what we'll see is that we have an actual menu object, and in our default this will not be visible. So let's actually take a look at the mobile screen, and let's hide our styles. Now this is the actual menu button that we're using here. So you can see that if we click it, this is menu, and this is what is actually being queried in the JavaScript. And what we're doing is we're applying a click action to this object to basically display our nav, which is all three buttons when pressed. And this is specific just for mobile. So if we go back and we take a look at the code again, you can see that what we're doing is we're just simply setting a variable, and we're just changing the variable state when it's actually displaying or not displaying the menu. Now the next thing we can look at is the external CSS that we've included. Now you can see here that what we have are two basic screen queries, and again this is based on the size of the screen. So one, what we're doing is we're disabling the nav on mobile devices, so we don't want this to be visible at default, but we're showing it on desktop because when the desktop is available, we always want them to see the button state. So this is just basic CSS to display the actual nav buttons as required. Now, the last thing to note with this design is the use of the actual menu object. Now, you'll see here that what we have is that in our actual desktop design, or our default, the menu itself, it is visible, but it's a different color, and the color is actually used to map the object with the page. So it's basically just set to white. But in our mobile design, this color is completely different and it's actually set to black, so it's more visible. Now, again, with responsive designs, you are not limited to changing the color or styles of elements, but you must maintain the same layer name. So this is a rule that we've applied here, and what we were able to do is basically show an element that is visible on mobile but not on desktop. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to simply export this so we can take a look at the output. Okay, so if we tab over to our exports panel and we go to HTML5, what we want to do is we want to add responsive CSS and images, and then we can just simply export this. Sorry, let's actually save this first. Now you'll note that we have our default screen hidden. This will not change anything in the actual output simply because folders that are hidden do not cause any difference in the export. It only actually encompasses individual layers when you have hidden layers included. So you can see that the export is complete. This is a fairly fast export. So we're just going to take a look at the actual output files. So you can see here we have our rollover applied to each button, and this is from our PSD. So again, we have our actual CSS styles here. Let's actually close the plugin really quick. So we have our CSS styles for our hover and our default state, and this is visible in the actual output. You'll see our default state and our hover. Plus we actually added a link tag, and what this will do is it will go to google.com. Now we just want to change the size of this so we can see the responsive content. Now based on our design, what you'll note is that with our CSS we had the menu hidden when it goes to mobile but visible when it's on desktop. So that rule is applied by default. The next step that we did was with our JavaScript we added a click action to this element. So if we click it, you'll see that now the menu is visible with the styles that we applied on rollover and the actual link that we have to Google. Now again, we could have added individual links for each button, but this is just an example. So you can see here that when we click the element, it will show the menu or not display the menu. And when we go to our default desktop, everything is visible as required. So you can see that you can have total control of your responsive content in Export Kit using various layers and styles. And this is just a simple example. You can take it to the full extent. We could have actually changed many things with our design, but again, this is just a simple responsive menu using Export Kit in Photoshop.